Bonjour, bonsoir, dear friends, and welcome to JCB Live Happy Hour. Tonight, we're going to be traveling between the United States and, of course, Paris. We have a very special lady who created one of the most amazing company in France. It's called Black Paris Tours. She is a charismatic, incredible, and unique woman who, as early as 3 years old, had the dreams to be in France. At that time, her mother was one of the most amazing dancers with Josephine Baker and many other incredible dancing groups and bands. And she was really already within the world of music and entertainment. She then, in the United States, went, of course, to the famous Stanford School where she graduated, and thereafter created this amazing Black Paris Tour company. And which is so exciting, she's intimately friends with great people that we know who started at that time, like Oprah Winfrey, and who really became such great personalities. So I'm delighted tonight that we're going to be with Ricki from her home. She's with her daughter in Oakland, California. She's a great friend of our good friend, Dr. Nat. This is how we've met her. And she is all in red today. So we had to have Haute Couture to match her beautiful outfit. Bonsoir, Ricki. Woohoo!
Bonsoir, monsieur. Ça va?
Merveilleusement bien. Et vous?
Merci. Mais le rouge, the red, is for February being Valentine's Day, and this being Black History Month. And
That's right.
For me, Black History Month is every day. But I honor those who came before me by wearing the red. And it's the color of life.
Hey, it's my favorite color, as you know. I mean, my two favorite between black, white, and red. Those are my favorites. So, Ricki, tell us, in fact, about this month and how special it is and how it started, because I think it's a good way to start. We are delighted to celebrate, of course, and to partake into all the celebration around the US and the world, but give us a little sense of history.
You're going to find this fascinating. Carter G. Woodson, the father of Black History Month, was actually educated. He spent several years at the Sorbonne. His family had been coal miners in Ohio. He was a brilliant young man. His mother had been enslaved, but learned how to read and write, taught her 9 babies how to read and write. They never had any idea that they would be able to send their children to school. But at the age of 20, he was so gifted that they were able to send him to high school. And he finished high school like that. And then they sent him to a teacher's college, and he finished a 2-year course in the teacher's college like that. And they said, we're going to send him he had a benefactor, the family, because he's so bright. And the family says, well, we're going to send him to University of Chicago. Well, that's when there were challenges. Even though he was a brilliant student, he was not allowed to sit in the classroom with the other students. He could not go to the library. Now we're talking about early 1900.
Yes.
1902. And at one point he decided, he was a little dejected, but he decided that he would take a year, and his junior year he spent at the Sorbonne, where he was shocked that he was treated like any other student. He could go to the library, he could go to the canteen, he could go to the ballet, to the opera, to the music halls, to anywhere he wanted to go. He traveled to Africa, he traveled to Asia, he did extensive research on the old Bibliothèque, in the old Bibliothèque Nationale.
Of course.
And he decided that he was going to finish his PhD in history from Harvard. And Dr. Carter G. Woodson, after having spent just 2 years in Paris studying, came back to the United States. Now this is like 1907, 1908. And in 1926, he created the first Negro History Week. That 50 years later, 1976, would be Black History Month. So the man we have to thank for Black History Month in the United States was actually educated and acclimated in Paris.
That's wonderful. Well, what a history. Thank you so much. This is absolutely incredible. And I'm so glad that this month has become such an important month in the history of the world. So how do we celebrate this month? Tell us about some of the events that may happen and how we can honor, of course, what we believe in.
Well, we are offering virtual Black Paris tours because of the pandemic.
Yes.
We cannot do our tours, although we have two tour guides who are two, as I call them, our scholar guides. They're not just guides, tour guides. My crew, they're scholars in this history. You have to be. You have to have a passion for it.
For sure.
So two of our scholar guides are in Paris, and we are launching virtual tours where we're going to have a photographer, a videographer come and walk with them. And then we are presenting our tours as if you're walking through the streets of Paris.
Oh,
so there's that option. We also do PowerPoint presentations. Normally, when I'm here in the United States, I'm speaking at major museums, the African American Museum of Oakland's African American Museum and Library. I speak to major corporations, PG&E, which is like UDF.
Yes. We've heard a lot about those people lately, you know?
Yes, we have. Yes. And I'm speaking to law firms, and we just, Silicon Valley Chamber of Commerce, different organizations will invite us to come and speak. So we've been doing PowerPoints, but now we want to bring people along to Paris with us.
And I love it. And how did you get to, first of all, Ricki, I'm very disappointed. It's the Valentine month. We're celebrating this amazing month, as you just explained us so well, and you're not drinking your wine.
Oh, I already beat you. I had some, okay.
Very good.
I'm going to ask my assistant to get my wine.
I hope it's a beautiful daughter. And I hope it's your beautiful daughter.
Yes, she's not just my daughter. She was 11 years old when we came to Paris, when we traveled to Paris for what was supposed to have been a year. I was fortunate, I was able to put her into a French school. She speaks perfect French. She graduated, she did the bac there in Paris.
Wow.
And so she's great. Her French is impeccable.
Yes, as yours is. I think you're minimizing way too much your beautiful French.
Oh, well, I haven't had a chance to speak in a long time. I think I'm going to have it in this glass.
That's perfect.
You know,
any container is good as long as you have the liquid inside.
Yes. We'll talk about the history of this coupe.
Well, why don't you have some in both, in each of them, so then you can tell us about what you think about each.
Okay, so let me go back to this. So I was, my entire career was spent in broadcasting. I was in radio in New York. I was a United Nations reporter. I was a political analyst and reporter for a network in New York. Came back to California. I worked as a, thank you, sweetheart. I worked as a daily reporter, hated it. I worked as a business reporter, loved it. I worked as a travel reporter, adored it. And as a travel reporter, I moved around the world. I was probably the first African-American travel reporter. And
Fantastic.
I remember when I got hired by the San Francisco-based network, they said, well, you're Black. I was like, yeah, I know that. And you're going to be going out in the world, and you're going to face some adversities. You're going to face some challenges. Never one day of challenges. Never out in the world.
Thank
But
God.
come back to the United States and there's always some challenge about, well, who are you? And that sort of thing. So, and I loved the French. I was on assignment in 1994 in Paris and just fell in love with the French. Was
Well, and
walking,
I know they fell in love with you and your charm and
well,
style. That
they're,
I know that.
they're very kind. All you have to do is say, bonjour, madame, bonjour, monsieur.
Hey, how did you? I need to interrupt you, Ricki, and ask you that question. How did you learn French so well? Was it a Frenchman or woman who helped you to get there? I'm sure there's a
No,
little romantic story there.
no, it was my love affair with Paris from the time
Oh,
it was, and well, I'll say this, as a journalist, I got to interview people like James Baldwin, who lived in Paris, who died in Paris. I got to interview Eartha Kitt, who had found her passion in Paris. When Orson Welles, she and Orson Welles had a mad, passionate affair, and she found her joy and her purpose, her ability. I got to interview Gordon Parks, who lived in Paris. Gordon Parks, one of the most famous African-American photographers, artists, film directors. And so I kept saying, I need to get ready to go to Paris. I need to get ready. So I took French in high school, but my French teacher was from Texas, Madame Folt. And so we learned to say bonjour.
yes, you stayed very well.
but in any case, my passion is still to learn to speak very, very
Well, and
excellent French.
you have graduated there. But
Thank
tell
you.
us about this amazing thing you've done as far as in charge of a very famous network in the United States. As you said, you travel all around the world as a great reporter, journalist, and as well in France. You took over Oprah Winfrey in
Oh,
charge of the network.
yeah. Well, that was my first job in radio. I spent a year on the campus at historic Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, met a group of Black journalists. And I mean, this was like really exciting. And Oprah was leaving a local radio station to go to television.
Mhm.
And she was part of our group. And she says, well, Ricki, why don't you just come and hang out with me for a couple of weeks and I'll show you what to do and how to do it and I'll train you. And I was like, okay. And I went there 2 days and she worked with me. And the third day she left me a note. I wish I had kept it. You are on your own.
Well,
You're
it was
going to
really
be
good
just
advice.
fine. You're going to be just fine. And I had the most amazing experience there. I got to interview. Nashville, Tennessee is like the center of the Black intelligentsia. It's
Oh,
Fisk
really?
University, Vanderbilt, Maziere Medical School. I'm leaving Tennessee State University, the University of the Athletes. And so all of these people attracted so many people and so much history there. And I got to interview fabulous folks, the mayor of Atlanta, Georgia.
Mhm.
And I was interviewing him one Saturday, and I got a phone call from a network in New York. And they said, we'd like to hire you. We heard some of your reports. We'd like to hire you. And I was like, I've only been doing this for 8 months. And they said, we're going to hire you. And he said, go. Mayor Jackson said, I want you to go. I was like, I'm afraid. He said, you have to get over fear.
Mhm.
It could be the best thing you've ever done. And I was still like, I don't know. He said, I'll come to New York and I'll check on you. And then he said, plus you'll be making more money in 1 week than you make here. So
Another incentive.
I went, he came, Oprah said, oh, wow. Oprah said, you're on your own, girl. And Mayor Jackson came to New York and checked on me. And they were impressed that I had met people already. And he was an amazing political man.
For
And
sure.
so when I said, I'm going to interview, or then I had met James Baldwin already. And they were, how do you know this stuff? And I said, because of my parents. Because of my parents. Yes. So that's how I got into it. Spent 6 years there and then came back to California. I'll tell you what happened. I had promised myself I was going to go to Paris, and just, you never know. You always want to go. And then I'll be honest, I was working for an NBC station here in San Francisco in the Bay Area. And because of my UN connections, I had an invitation to interview Mikhail Gorbachev, who had been the president, the leader of the then Soviet Union. And I went to my news director, I'm all excited. I've been invited to interview Mikhail Gorbachev.
Amazing.
And he looked at me like, you're Black. Why would you want to interview Mikhail Gorbachev? And I was like, it doesn't matter what I do, how many awards I win, I'm still held in a box. So I said, might as well go to Paris. Let's see what that's about. And so in 1997, my daughter and I packed up. We were going to spend a year. It's now been 24 years.
That's amazing. What a great story. Well, I'm going to toast to this and to your incredible, not only audacity, but sense of going forward and doing things in spite of what you can hear. So I love it. Very inspirational. Well, I'd like to ask you, Ricki, you don't have to say it in French, but maybe in English, to describe what the wine makes you feel. Because, we selected this bottle for you because it's all about the cabaret. It's very Parisian. It's very Moulin Rouge.
Yes.
Very crazy horse.
Well, I'm really bad. I'm not really a wine drinker. I mean, let me tell you what happened. I started drinking wine, and California wines had too much tannin. I shouldn't say this.
So we're going to give you French today. So
okay. So
all on the French.
I found that I would have an allergic reaction to some wines.
Yes.
And then when I went to Paris, I found out I can drink all of this stuff.
That's right.
So I didn't have the same reaction. So I really like this. This is my kind of
Thank you.
stuff.
And I want to make sure you share it with your daughter later. I know you have several glasses.
I told you, we beat you to it.
We were on it. Well, to an amazing month, a very meaningful month. Tell us why this year specifically, you feel, and we all feel, it's more important than ever to celebrate the month and to discuss and to live this month with a lot of openness and respect and so forth.
What you're saying, the respect, the openness, the joie de vivre.
That's right. Yes.
All of that is significant for us, for all of us. The United States has turned a corner, a significant corner. And we have history in our new vice president, Kamala, who's from Oakland, by the way.
That's right.
And I have to just say this. Last month in January, we lost a woman who was the wind beneath our wings, Cicely Tyson.
Ah, yes.
And so she was that kind of person who always tested her resolve, who did everything. And so I think in terms of Cicely Tyson, I think of you'll hear me talking about all of those who came before. I'm blessed to be able to tell the stories of the very earliest Blacks in the royal courts of France.
Yes.
And that makes people know that we're not just visitors or tourists, I'll put it that way. But when we go to France, this is our history as well.
Oh, absolutely.
When I talk about, it's so wonderful. We live in a building, in an apartment complex, and my upstairs neighbor was Josephine Baker's driver during World War II when they were in Casablanca. Oh, he loved to regale us with stories about the things that they did and the experiences that they had. So it's important for us to open our eyes to see that it shouldn't be based on your color, but on your character. That's what life should be based on.
Absolutely.
And so I hope, and during all of my life with my mother and my father, that was a thing that they taught, that racism was based on ignorance.
That's
and
right.
so you could open people's eyes to the world, you could stop some of that ignorance. I love the way the French travel, they're going, they're doing, it's like you are encouraged to go outside
Yes.
who you are.
And it's very important. So this month, what do you recommend as people may discover the month and the celebration and the sense of respect and the sense of history and knowledge that we need to have? What do you recommend we do and people do at large?
Read. Read, watch videos. You can go to blackparistour.com. We have a lovely listing of videos that you can watch about the 369th Harlem Hellfighters, the African Americans, some 250,000 who fought in France during World War I, and those who fought during World War II. Read. There are books we have. I don't know if we have a book list right now on our website, but again, Black Paris Tour, no S at the end, our website. And we can provide you with information. Go to the museums, the African American museums. Go on Netflix. There are thousands of films that you can watch, historic films.
That's right.
I'm stuck on Lupin. Lupin. Yes. Lupin, the series. I love that. It's so French, and yet this man is so wonderfully African and French. I tell people watch Bridgerton. Now that sounds kind of silly, but Bridgerton is a series that has by Shonda Rhimes, and it has Blacks as they were in the royal courts of the United Kingdom. Not many people are aware that 10% of the knights in King Arthur's Round Table were Black, were African. There's a fabulous book, and it is Perry Noir, African Americans in the City of Light. I forgot. I just had a hand contributed to the creation of a book, and it's about Black sports figures and early Black sports figures. There are books that you can get. You can order from bookstores, from Amazon, read, find out. Use Black Paris Tours as a jumping off place. If you have a group and you want to take the tour, we'll make that possible for you to do our virtual tour. But make it not just this month. Make it every day.
That's right.
That's
what I was going to say, Ricki. It's obviously great to allocate a whole month and discuss it on a daily basis. One, I would hope it would not even be a discussion, number one. Number two, I would believe that in the 21st century, racism or noticing skin colors or what have you would not even be a topic. But as it is one, I think it's important that we make it a 365-day-a-year priority to make sure that we alleviate all those potential inhumane differences that could have been outlined in the past. You know, it's interesting with my daughters. We watched the other day an incredible, in preparation of the month, the three ladies who were working at the NASA as African American
scientists. Figures. You were watching.
We loved it.
Yes.
So it's so unique. My daughters are twin ladies of 9. And they said, Papa, we don't understand what that means. Why colored rooms or non-colored rooms? Why is it a big deal?
Yeah.
And I was so pleased to hear that, because at school, obviously, which is all race, all origin, all languages,
Yes.
it's everybody together, irrelevant of anything else. And it's the personality that counts. It's not anything else. So they had a hard time to actually understand this.
What is it?
What it is exactly. So I'm delighted in any case that we had a very powerful Martin Luther King's Day. And I don't know if you've seen on my Instagram, we all did a drawing about Martin Luther King's and the meaning of his speech. And we all, as a family, sat around the table and listened to the speech, and then inspired from the speech, did a drawing. And I'm very excited because my daughters did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've heard about your daughter. I won't say their names, but I love their names. They're so French.
Yeah, so French, exactly.
How old
So
are they?
they're 9, twin ladies of 9.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. And so can we go back on what you feel have been the progress and where we're heading now, and what we as individuals can do to make a difference within exactly what you've explained?
Here in the United States?
Specifically in the US, please. Yes.
Okay. Our nation, this nation, is changing dramatically. It will soon be, and is right now, and will soon be even more so, a nation of all colors. But what's really funny is that it started that way, not so much colors, but all ethnicities.
Yes.
Italians and Irish and everyone. I mean, it amazes me when I tell people on the tour, Africans didn't come here initially as enslaved people.
That's right.
We came here teaching
That's
Americans how to build, how to plant, how to inoculate themselves against diseases. And then it's another point. They said, well, we're going to put all of you in chains. I mean, that kind of stupidity. That's because right. The color made it easy. But that factor has tied this nation. Mm-hmm. When you think of all of the wonderful inventions, and there are books about the inventions that came about as a result of African Americans. We were doing the work. We had to make the stuff, you know. So I think that we're going to have to take a bunch of deep breaths.
We are.
And just
I'm doing it with you.
To enjoy, to revel. You know, when you're in Paris, people say, well, where are you from? I mean, it's not what do you do? In the United States, it tends to be what do you do?
That's right.
And in France, it's like, where are you from? Who are your people? What's your history?
Yeah.
And then they can like you or dislike you based on your character.
That's right.
Not your color. So I firmly believe that this nation needs to come to this understanding and delight in the fact that there are people coming from all over the world to make this nation better.
So well said. And this is why, Ricki, I've done the reverse trip as you have. You know, I'm in the United States in Napa Valley, a few miles or kilometers away from you, from Oakland, because I love this. And I believe we've never been closer to this unbelievable evolution that is so long awaited for. So I'm so glad that as you do this tour, you know, Black Paris stores and many other involvement that you have within the community, that will see an amazing evolution. Mm-hmm. By the way, I meant to ask you, you were grown in a military family. How was that?
Well,
because you alluded to your parents.
I think when you, I know, so many of my colleagues in the media and television all were born into military families. And I think that ability to move and then go to another place and go to another place, it creates a foundation here
Yes.
inside your family, yourself. And so there's less fear because, as my mother, when we would go from one Navy base to another, we would usually be the first or the second Black family living on the Navy base. And my mother would say, we'd cry. She'd say, we're moving. We're like, well, we have our friends and the dog. And she says, okay, we're going to get new toys, new friends, new dog. And we're like, okay, let's go. You know? But it untethers you and allows you to reach out. And that's what I found in so many people who were military brats, that they have a greater ability to look at people in larger ways, not narrow ways.
And that's how you became so fearless in many ways.
Okay, I will accept that. It's, you know, it's always scary.
Yeah.
You know, it's always scary. I was blessed. I was so blessed. And that I had friends who began coming over from the United States, and they would say, okay, you're in Paris. Show me what you found. Where was Josephine Baker? Where was Louis Armstrong?
Yes.
Where was Dr. Carter Woodson? Where was W.E.B. Du Bois? Yeah. Where were all these people? And I had to come up with a tour where I was going to look bad. And so I did.
So it's amazing. So today, Ricki, we can do the tour obviously virtually, naturally with you, that tour as an example, but we can as well do it in Paris with you physically. Well, not when things reopen, maybe.
When thing, and you know that just last week, well, it's been a couple of weeks now, that the President Macron, no lockdown, but people are on, might as well be a lockdown.
Yes.
You can't go out between 6 in the evening, and then you can go out at 6 in the morning. So my friends, my colleagues in Paris, you know, it's like everybody's feeling. One good thing though, the outdoor markets are still open, some of them, the largest ones. So that's good.
But you cannot go to bars to listen to great jazz.
No restaurants, no, and that is killing people, because that is your life. That is life, to live and to do and to be and to go out and hang out and give bisous, and you know, it's just a different life.
So in Paris, you give a great highlight, of course, of the overall African-American life in Paris and its influence. What are the key elements of that we should know about? I know there's a lot, but obviously music is one, which is very, very enormous influence.
One of the men, and this, I love it when my guests say, wow, we didn't know that. There was a Black man, his name was Joseph Bologna. He was born on the island of Guadeloupe, 1762. His father was a French aristocrat. His mother was an African woman who was called the most beautiful woman on the island of Guadeloupe. The father brought the son and the mother back to Paris, and his son to the best schools. His son became a master fencer. He was an equestrian. He mastered the violin, the mandolin, and the cello. He's now called the Black Mozart, but he actually taught Mozart.
Wow.
He was the head of the French orchestra at Versailles.
Amazing.
Imagine that. He taught the French how to dress, because, you know, in the royal courts, they would always wear black because they were getting ink on their clothes and they couldn't always get their clothes washed and clean. And he was like, we have to wear some colors here. We're going to start wearing purple and orange and bright blues.
Totally agree.
And he changed the whole dynamic.
I had no idea.
Oh, you never? Oh, okay.
Well, I did not know that one. No.
I didn't know either. When I got there, the first year I was there, I was invited to a concert at Versailles. And I was like, how'd I get invited? I didn't know. I think it was based on my credentials from having been there years before. And I went, and we were in the Royal Opera House. And my date and I were seated in one of the royal boxes and all of that. And someone leaned over and said, you know, he was Black, right? I was like, what? They had spent an entire year honoring the man, Chevalier de Saint Georges.
That's right.
And so when I tell my guests about this, they're going like, you mean we did the music? He was the prince of his time. The other things we talk about, oh, how about this? Everybody knows that Alexander Dumas was Black, right?
Yeah.
The most prolific writer in French history.
Amazing writer.
Yes.
Everybody has read in all languages, probably.
It's exactly, tout à fait. But did you know that his father, who was born in Haiti, his father was one of Napoleon's greatest generals?
Did not know.
His name was, well, his name, he was born David Thomas de la Pailleterie, but then he changed his name because when he went into the military and his French father told him, well, we're aristocrats, you can't use de la Pailleterie. And he says, well, I'm going to change my mind. So, my name. So he used his mother's name, which was Dumas, which meant of the farm, and he became General Alexandre Dumas. He would lead 150,000 French troops.
That's right.
Of course. All 6'2", 220 pounds. He was this elegant horse rider, brilliant strategist, military strategist, and Napoleon, who was kind of short. Napoleon was jealous of him.
Of course.
So he's another one that we talk about. We also talk about the Arc de Triomphe, which was built by Napoleon. And I don't want to get into all the history, but Napoleon was kind of jealous. There was a man named Hannibal, a military leader named Hannibal.
Yes.
And Hannibal had crossed from Africa into Spain, crossed the Alps on 38 war elephants, went into Rome to conquer the Romans. Hannibal was bad. And Napoleon always wanted to be as great a military strategist as the Black Hannibal.
Yes.
So when Napoleon ordered the construction of his Arc de Triomphe, he wanted it to be an elephant. Did you know that?
No, I did not. Thank you for telling me.
The first Arc de Triomphe was supposed to be an elephant. And they were like, why do you want an elephant? That's going to be tacky and hard to clean. And he was like, I want an elephant. And they finally figured it out. He wanted to be as great a military leader as was Hannibal. So we talk about that.
I love that. Hey, before we go to the next story, Ricki, we need to have you taste the red wine.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're talking about Napoleon. And would you want to realize that in 1804, that same bottle of wine, Fixin, was actually drunk by Napoleon. Exactly, and he loved it so much that he said to Rude, one of his famous sculptors, I would like to have my sculpture here laying overlooking the Alps, far away to Italy, because, you know, we obviously very close to the northern part of Italy. And this is my favorite wine. And when I'm honored even more, that's what I want to drink. So Napoleon really loved Fixin. And today, there was, in those days, in the 1800s, a phenomenal sculpture made by François Rude that is still there on top of the vineyards of this lovely village of Fixin. So we had to choose French for your love of France and Burgundy.
Merci. Oh, I love that story. Yummy.
I like that.
That's nice.
So, Ricki, as you think of the wine and you taste the wine, Tell us another amazing story to inspire and get people to do the Black Paris tour, because I would be thrilled to hear from all our friends with us tonight. Oh, I want to do the tour, and I went to do the tour, and I love the tour, because I think what you've created, besides your incredible resume and all the great things you're doing, this is one of your amazing achievements as well, with your daughter, who's your vice president.
Yes.
And who continues with you this great journey. So give us another example maybe of something else that you show.
How about there's so many things that flood into my mind, but right now I'm thinking as we walk down the Champs-Élysées, and we walked to number 92 Champs-Élysées, that's near Rue Boissy. And
Yeah.
this is Champs-Élysées, the most elegant boulevard, supposedly the most elegant boulevard in Paris. And there at number 92 is a building, Hotel Lagnac. And it was the site of the first US embassy in Paris. Well, you know that the French helped the Americans defeat the British
Yes.
in the Revolutionary War, blah, blah, blah. But, and then that building was where Thomas Jefferson was the third ambassador to France. And when he came to Paris in 1784, he brought with him a young Black man. His name was James Hemings. And James Hemings had been enslaved. And when he got to Paris, the French were like, oh no, you're in France now, you're no longer a slave. So he went to Jefferson and he said, well, Mr. Jefferson, I understand I'm no longer enslaved. And Jefferson says, oh, okay, you got me. And James demanded that he have a tutor to teach him French. He went to a cooking school with Monsieur Condé, and he grew a garden in the courtyard of that building at number 92 Champs-Élysées. And he cooked the things that his mother had cooked in Virginia.
Love
and
it.
He became this very adored and in high command chef. And there are books that you can go online, James Hemings and his recipes. And James Hemings, okay, so there's that. But then James Hemings also had a younger sister. Her name was Sally. And so at one point, Sally accompanied one of Thomas Jefferson's daughters to Paris. And Sally was this very young, she might have been like 15 or 16 at the time. But Sally looked like Thomas Jefferson's dead wife because she was her half sister. And so the French were like, we're confused. You have someone that you've enslaved and she is your relative? Oh, but they weren't shocked at her age. They were in shock that she had been enslaved. And so they were like, shame on you.
That's
and
right.
Jefferson, essentially, I'll tell the story real short. Jefferson eventually had a thing for her. She looked like his dead wife. She knew the history of Monticello. She was a lovely young woman. And so there became a love affair between them. And she got pregnant with the first of their 6 children in Paris. And when the French Revolution began, 1789, Jefferson said, okay, everybody get out, we're leaving. And James and Sally said, why would we go back to enslavement in the United States? No, we're not going. And Jefferson went crazy. And eventually he talked her into coming back. But that building at number 92, that's significant.
Well, I'm going to go as soon as I'm there. I love the story. Thank you so much for sharing.
Can I tell you one more? I got to tell
Of course. Hey, your glass is still very full, so you need.
Okay.
You see, I keep going at it.
I hope I can keep talking.
We love those stories, and very moving stories as well. So many learnings from them.
Yeah. Théâtre des Champs-Élysées on Avenue Montaigne. That's where Josephine Baker first performed on stage in 1925.
That's right.
The Olympia.
That's
The
it.
great Olympia Theater. That's where everyone, Black American entertainers, could perform there during a time when in the United States they were barred from entertaining in the grand theaters. The Opera House, that's like right down the block from the Olympia.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many Black entertainers, Black opera greats perform there. If you just go right across the street from the Opera House, there's the Grand Hotel. They have the pictures, depending on what floor you go on, they have the pictures, the images, the portraits of all of the opera greats, the classical greats who perform at the Opera House. And there are Black Americans as well. So we do all of that. Then my favorite is, so the tour is, it's either a 2/3 day tour or it's a day-long tour. For those who take the day-long tour with us, we go up into Montmartre. We see the first nightclub that Josephine Baker owned.
Of course, I know it. Yes.
And then we go to lunch, late lunch, in Little Africa. Now, when you tell people there's a Little Africa in Paris, they're like, what? There are
Yes.
Africans in Paris? Yes. And not just recently.
Yes.
You know?
And a lot.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
the food is phenomenal.
Yes, it's the place to go. I'm so glad you are.
Yeah.
What a great tour. I want to go there with you.
Come on. Come on.
Well, we will.
I have to say this. We did a tour for a man who was just amazing, Colin Kaepernick, football player. And Colin Kaepernick was, you know, the politics of the United States, they were beating him up for having knelt to fight against police brutality in the United States. There were death threats on his life, all kinds of things were going on. So when he came to Paris, he wasn't quite sure of what he was going to encounter. When we went to Little Africa, it was the first time I saw him do like this.
Yeah. Relieved. I love it. I'm
He ran
so
into a woman who looked a little bitty woman. He's real tall, and she ran into him, in fact, and she looked up at him and she was like, "Oh, monsieur," and she smiled at him, and he was like, "Oh," you know?
adorable.
Yes.
So all those great stories, all those incredible achievements, because obviously we talked about only a fourth of all the things you've accomplished. What is now your dream?
To make Black Paris Tours a company that will live forever.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important that, and wait, I should tell you this. We're now doing tours for French schools as well, for French high schools, for community organizations. And when all people have this information, it opens their minds.
Absolutely.
It forces them to open their minds. So my dream is to have this company live, thrive, and be better and better every year. The 2020 was that was a challenge.
For sure.
It was a challenge for everyone. So I want to be like you.
Well, as long as you have a glass of wine in your hand, you know, Ricki, you're exactly like me. So Ricki, as Dr. Nat is our great friend, she knows that, and she said, you got to ask Ricki the question as your parting question, because we've abused of almost an hour of your great time, but I could speak to you for days.
And I could talk for days too.
Well, you're so interesting and there's so much to talk about. But thank you immensely for such a great discussion. What would be your message? You know, this is a unique month. And I know you touched on the message earlier very, very well and in an incredible, articulate way, but maybe the closing statements about the message to the world, because we have our friends from all over the world listening with us tonight and in the next few days and months, and who will be on your tour. So what would you be your overall message to everyone entering the first few days of February?
Love to love.
Yes.
And if you have a dream, it was put in your head for a reason. Do that. Even if it's scary, do that. When I think of Cicely Tyson talking about the things that she did, and she was like, oh my gosh, this what's gonna happen? You know, you never know. It can be the best thing of your life. It can be the thing that will take you to heights that you've never experienced before. Have a dream, live that dream, and love along the way.
Amazing. Incredible. I'm going to follow your advice. Not that I haven't, but I will be reminded of you every day now as I think of it. So, Ricki, to you and your magnificent daughter who is with us, I know she's on the other side of the camera.
Can I have her come on?
Of course, as you must. You must.
Ma belle. Ma pousse.
Votre puce est adorable.
Ouais, tout à fait.
La voilà. Yeah. Bonsoir. Elle est magnifique, elle est ravissante, elle est adorable.
Ouais.
Un sourire exceptionnel. Elle est charmante. So ladies, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Yeah. You know, not only you've educated us, you've inspired us, you obviously got us very, very, you know, interested in everything that you do and everything that you've done. And you left us with such a great message that we got to go and live it. So we wish you incredible continued success with obviously Black Paris store. For everyone, you know, it will be in the chat and it will be as well on the Facebook and the Instagram. So you can obviously go and do the tour and virtually for now and soon physically. So ladies, thank you for being with us so much.
Yes.
It was a great honor, a great pleasure. Make sure you finish those bottles of wines tonight. Because you know, you have French now, so you'd better drink your glass.
Well, we learned how you can, when you toast, you must look the other person in the eye.
Yes. En français dans les yeux.
Ouais.
And to a magnificent month and an inspirational month. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Quelle joie.